Hello everyone, thank you for joining me today. I'm going to put another scrapbook layout together. It's going to be a double page spread using the Hillside Cottage papers again, and I'm also mixing it with some of our wood grain paper, which is from the core catalogue. But the paper that I'm using from Hillside Cottage is this blue one here with the check on it. And I thought it would team really well with the wood grain and also to give a bit of a treatment to the espresso cardstock, which I'm using as the background base. The first thing I'm going to show you today is how I've whitewashed the background piece. I found that just by putting the pieces on as is, the espresso looked a little bit flat. So I wanted to add some texture to it and bring in some whitewashing. Now I've got an old style white daisy ink pad. It's still going. I have ordered myself a new one, but I'm just going to keep using this one until it's no longer working. Basically all you need to do is just drag or swoosh the ink along. This ink is starting to run out a little bit. I've been doing a little bit of this technique lately. I love the texture that it brings. And to add more to it, I can just go over again. I can angle it on its edge just a little bit just by tilting the ink pad and get some more solid lines. But that is basically all I'm going to do with that. And that's my background piece done. Before I clean up, I'm also going to do a little bit of whitewashing to the wood grain piece. But before I do that, I'm going to distress the edges. Now I've done this on the blue check paper. That's from the Hillside Cottage collection. So basically you just have to run around the edges. If you don't have one of these distressing tools, you can use your scissors or you can run your fingernails along. And you can see if you go in a little bit heavier, you'll get more of a distressed look if you go over it again and again. Or you can get a lighter distressed look if you just do it in the one direction and just do it lightly. So I'm quite happy with how that looks. You end up with quite a little bit of fluff. With the smaller pieces, I've found that it's easier not to use one of these so much. You can start it off, but there's not much to hold on to. So I just run along with my fingernail and rough up the edges this way. And that works just as well. Now I'm further going to treat this with a little bit of the white daisy ink as well. So with my tool, I'm just going to run around the edges. I'm not going to keep it right on the edge. I want a bit of it to go onto the wood grain piece, just to lift the wood grain pattern just a little bit and to also tie it in with the background piece that I've just done. Oh, I need to turn the light on. It's getting a bit darker. We're heading into winter here and the days are getting shorter. So that's just a little bit around the edges, and then I'm just going to go along and add a little bit more of this white just with swiping motions. It doesn't matter if I've pounced a little bit there, but that's going to get covered up by mats and photos. So that just brings that wood grain to life just a little bit more when it's sitting on an espresso cardstock. I'm going to do the same thing to this other small piece. Just to lighten it just a little bit. It doesn't take very long to do, but it does give that extra little bit of texture. So you can see that that's lifted the page quite a bit just by quickly putting some ink over the top of it. The other thing that I've done is gone around with a sponge dauber on the edge of the bluebell mats. I'll just grab a scrap piece. I'm using another old ink pad. I've got desert sand. Toffee is the equivalent of this. And with a sponge dauber, and I need some new ones. They're on their way, but these ones are fraying quite a bit. I've had them for a very long time. I've just gone around the edge of the photo mats just to give a little bit more distressing and texture. So now I can get to assembling the page. So both the left and the right page have a similar layout with these pieces. These are basically centered on the page, running horizontally and vertically. So we'll get those all stuck down. And I'm just going to bring the horizontal strip right up to the edge and use my Versamat to line it up so that I know that it's centered on the page. And I'll bring in my T-ruler for this one so that I can make sure I can get it fairly straight. Normally with the White Daisy, you put it aside and let it to dry for a while because it is a pigment ink. If you were doing this with, you can do this technique with any of our normal water-based dye inks and you don't need to wait as long for it to dry. But it does have a bit of a chalky feel, and normally I put the pieces aside so that they will dry off a little bit before I just go in and work straight away. I'm going to attach my photo mats. So you can see a little bit of distressing on the edges with the ink really does lift that just a little bit. So I'll go ahead and I'll adhere all these pieces and then we'll come back to do the rest of the decoration. So now I've done the basics of the page. You can see I've adhered all the photo mats. The left side fairly replicates the right side with the pattern papers. And also I've put these strips that I used from the ends of these two pieces here to create a bit of a decorative piece here and also along the bottom of this section. So now we'll get to making the title. So I've done one with Cricut where I've got an overlay and it's going to be adventure and time for adventure. So I'm just going to get my glue and run it around the edge. Using a liquid glue to do this means that you've got time to fuss around with it and get things into the position that you want them to be. And if there's a little bit there that I haven't quite stuck, I can just lift that up and put a couple of little dabs and get that on there to stick down. Now there are some insert pieces with this one. So I'm just going to put in the inside of this E and the edge of the N. And I need to find that little bit of an A. I can't find it at the moment, so I'll find that later for when I do the still shots. I've swept that to the side underneath some paper somewhere. There's also an arrow to go on as well. Now, you saw me go around the edges. You can also do this, if it's not too fiddly, with directly to the outlining piece. I find sometimes with the titles, if they're a little bit more intricate, that it is actually easier to put the glue onto the base layer. But when it's a simple shape like this, it's quite easy to apply the glue straight to the outline. And the other part of the title is this cut out time for. Now, all of these pieces for these layouts have been cut on the Cricut in Design Space. So it makes it very easy to put things together, and you know things are going to be the right size, which appeals to me. So this I'm going to pop up on some foam tape, and then I will be back with the rest of the decorations. I'm just going to pop that on the page, and then these two elements here also need foam tape. So now I'm going to add in some wooden arrows and words. These are from our core catalogue. So there are wood arrows, which have a whole heap of arrows in there, and ampersands, and love this wood titles. These are really, really cool. They've got love this, family, friends. I've used these several times on layouts. I'm going to use the word memories here. I'm going to use the insert pieces. For the pre-cut kits, I'm going to put this one in, but I can swap those out if people want that. It's their choice as to what they want, but I'll set that aside for now. So I'm going to adhere these with liquid glass. I will come back later at the end of the video with still shots of how this all looks, and with my little inside of the A, so that it doesn't quite look so strange. But these are basically the pages. You can see with the texture applied with the white daisy, it really does lift the espresso cardstock and gives it a little bit more texture. You saw how it looked before when I had the dry fit happening and the piece that I hadn't done that with. It's totally personal preference, but I really love how that gives that chalky look and sort of replicates the wood grain in the wood pattern from the papers. So thank you so much for watching. Hang around for some still shots at the end, as I said. Bye for now.